Hello and welcome back to another video. So I know August is already over. There's only a few more months left of the year, but I for one am ready for fall. I am ready to go to the pumpkin patches, to go to the wineries. I want to go apple picking this year. I've never done it, but I want to. I want to go to the corn mazes. I want to do all of the fall activities, and I for one just cannot wait. I do live in California, so unfortunately we don't get snow unless we drive a couple hours into the mountains, but it still gets nice and fresh, and I just can't wait to be wearing, you know, beanies and jackets and be wrapped up at home reading a good book with a blanket and some hot chocolate or some hot tea or just some sort of warm fall beverage. I am very, very excited for it. I do love summer, don't get me wrong, but I feel like after a while it just kind of gets old, you know? It gets old to be like hot all the time and sweaty and uncomfortable, and at least when you're cold you can layer up as much as you want and like you're totally fine. When it's hot, it's there's only so many layers you can take off, you know, before it's like, well, all you have left is skin, you can't take that off. So anyway, hopefully that wasn't a little too morbid or anything. But yeah, I'm very, very excited for fall. And with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into the books that I read this month. So in August, I read a total of 12 books, which is pretty decent for me. A lot of these were on audio, they were short books, but I gave myself the opportunity, not that I usually don't, but I was going based on my mood. So you're gonna see a very interesting combination, and I'm gonna go through them in the order that I read them so you can kind of see like where my mind was at the time, and also just you'll be able to see like where my mood was. So I started off the month with A Violent Agenda by Mallory Fox. This actually is a new like re-release because it's a bind up of 4 different books, but it is 4 books that you can read separately. So the very first book is where obviously I started, and it is very graphic. Definitely look up trigger warnings. This is a morally gray heroine. She is very strong, yes, but you can tell that she's been through it. You don't really know what she's been through. Like as the book kind of goes on and as her, you know, you learn more about her, you start to figure things out and put 2 and 2 together. But it is a very, very graphic book. She basically unalives people that I guess you can say deserve it. And she does work with someone or like for someone to go after these people. She ends up in this book, in the first book, having to go undercover at this, it's like a high school, it's a preparatory, an academy if you will, of these super uber rich people. So she has to go undercover to try to get basically her next target, and the story goes on from there. I would say definitely, I mean, you don't really know a lot just from the blurb, but look up your triggers because it is very, very graphic. Think similar to like the Mindfuck series. If you've read that series, it's pretty graphic. So it is like a little bit hard to read at times, so don't say I didn't warn you. After that, I went to something extremely light and very, very different, and that was A Plot Twist by Erin LaRosa. So in this one, you have Sophie, who is a romance author, and a video of hers ends up going viral on TikTok after she confesses that she's never been in love. This does cause a little bit of problems for her because she's worried that her publisher might drop her or that people might not want to read her book since she's never been in love, and they might not see her as like authentic when it comes to writing about romance. And also it causes a little bit of, not problems, but it does cause some of her exes to reach out to her and kind of wonder, what do you mean you've never been in love? One of her exes even tells her, that's funny because you literally said that you loved me, so I don't understand, like, so then were you lying? And so it basically now becomes this journey of her reconnecting with her exes to find out what it is that she maybe did wrong, or like to try to figure out why she's never been in love with someone and why she's never fallen in love. And in comes in Dash, who is her landlord, but he's also her best friend's brother. He is this actor who hasn't acted in a while, but he comes from a big, like, really well-known acting family. In specific, his dad and brother are these huge movie and action stars, and he is a little bit of the black sheep of the family, but they kind of start to connect because she's trying to figure it out. He's trying to help her with like this journey of talking to her exes, meeting up with them, finding out what went wrong in their relationships or maybe what she needs to work on. And they do end up eventually, after spending so much time together, coming up with a friends with benefits type of situation. But she is worried because although she's having fun with that, she doesn't want that to cause problems with her best friend, who is again Dash's sister, and the story goes on from there. It was a very lighthearted type romance, so if you're looking for something more contemporary, something more lighthearted, this would be the book for you. Then I went on to start on my Ice Planet of the Barbarians binging. I read a few books throughout the month, and you know what, I'm just gonna talk about all of them right now, even though I was pretty much reading like 2 and then 2 regular books and then another 2 of the Ice Planet Barbarian series, and I was basically hopping back and forth. If you don't know, the Ice Planet of the Barbarian series is, I want to say, like a 16 book or maybe 18 book series by Ruby Dixon. It has to do with these human women who end up being abducted from Earth by these horrible aliens who end up crash landing on this ice planet. And these ice planet barbarians, these aliens that live on this planet, are total opposites from these horrible aliens that abducted these humans, and they end up basically becoming like fated mates, and it's a whole fated mate situation. It's a very smutty type romance, very graphic, but honestly such a good, like such a great time. I've recommended the series a lot just because I feel like I say this all the time, it's a great book to read in between. If you're, you know, binging, if you're in a slump, I feel like these are nice quick reads to maybe kind of get you out of it. So I went ahead and I read Barbarian's Heart. This one was an amnesia romance. There is like an earthquake that happens at this ice planet, and one of the Sakui people, he ends up getting hit in the head. He knocks out. He's kind of in a coma type state, and when he wakes up, he doesn't remember his mate. He doesn't remember their kid that they have together, and he feels guilty about it because he doesn't remember her, and she's heartbroken that he doesn't remember her, doesn't remember their child. And so it's an amnesia romance. And I listened to Barbarian's Hope, and this is actually the first like romance where it's these 2 Sakui people, and they had resonated in the past, but she unfortunately had a stillbirth, so she did lose her child. And after that, she basically secluded herself. She was very, very depressed. So this book definitely has excellent representation for that, but just know that going in, it is a little bit of a heavier book. And she basically has secluded herself. She's been pretty depressed for a long time. Her fated mate and her, I mean, they're still needed to be together, but they just have not been together. And as this book goes on, they start to reconnect and kind of heal together through that loss of their child, and they kind of start to reconnect over that. Other Ice Planet of the Barbarian series book was Barbarian's Choice. This is actually a female Sakui, but she ends up resonating to a Sakui that comes from a different planet. So he actually, like, this civilization is very, very advanced, very technologically advanced, but their ship ends up landing in the ice planet, and she sees him, and she is the one that resonates to him. And he has no idea what resonance is. He doesn't really understand it, and he's also a little bit taken aback because she obviously is very barbarian looking, you know. She's over here wearing like leather clothing and stuff, and he's over here just full-on alien type gear and, you know, technology, and they are very much opposites attract. But it was a very cute lighthearted romance between them. And then I listened to Barbarian's Redemption. And this one, you have one of the Sakui males who is pretty much frustrated of being alone. He's seeing how his tribe keeps growing, all of these other tribes members that have resonated to other human women. And he is wondering, when is it gonna be my turn? I'm sick and tired of waiting. And he does something that is not okay in the slightest. Ends up making a deal with these nicer aliens that had landed in their planet to say, hey, I will give you these coins that you want, this money that you want, in exchange for you bringing us 5 human females. Now, he does not ask them to go abduct them from Earth or anything like that, but he does ask them to get them in the black market. And it turns out that even though the planet Earth is classified as a planet that you should, like, aliens should not be having contact with, there are these bad aliens that do abduct these females from Earth and then put them into the black market for indespicable things and other things of the sort, or like as a sort of pet. And he just asked them, like, can you get me 5 females for me and the 4 other males that have not resonated? And they basically end up doing that. They end up bringing these 5 females that were basically slaves into the planet, and these are nicer men, so these women do realize like, okay, these are like, this is a way better, you know, way better circumstances than the ones that we were in, but it's still not okay. And a lot of the tribespeople get very upset with him that he went through these lengths to try to have a mate. So the story goes on from there. The other book that I read or listened to was Barbarian's Rescue. And this one, you have these rogue slave ship that basically landed onto this planet, and they think that maybe they're friendly, and it turns out that they are not. They are actually trying to capture these humans and Sakwi people alike to try to get them into slavery and into the black market. You have a human female and a Sakwi male that witnessed this happening, and so now they have to try to come up with a plan to try to rescue their people before this ship takes off with them. And the story goes from there. And then the last Ice Planet Barbarians book that I listened to in August was Barbarians Tease. 2 of the people that had not resonated to anybody that were abducted in this ship that basically was trying to take them into, you know, the black market. And to try to save their lives, she tells these alien males like, well, I'm not mated, he isn't mated, and they kind of see them as like, ooh, if they have children, we can put those children into slavery. So they kind of see them like, when they see these 2, they see money signs, and so they put them together to try to force them to mate and to basically make babies. They do end up having a one-night stand that they both really enjoy. However, when time passes, she does tell him like, oh no, that was just for fun, like that's not what I meant, like it was not supposed to be something serious. And he is very, very angry because he wanted them to at least become friends with benefits and maybe see if they would eventually resonate, and she is not looking for that. And so they're very angry at each other, and also they're still very, very attracted to each other. They know how good it was when they were together, so the story goes on from there. But those were all the Ice Planet of the Barbarian series that I listened to throughout the month, and my goal is basically to complete the series. I think I have like 2 books left that I'll be listening to in September just to wrap it up, and then I'll probably eventually hop onto other Ruby Dixon books because I genuinely enjoy them, and they're just such a nice, like, fun trip. I don't know. Aside from that, I did read When He Desires by Gabrielle Sands. If you have not read anything by Gabrielle Sands and you love mafia romance, please check out her books. She does have a 4-book series. It's the Fallen series that I would definitely recommend that you start with. All 4 books are interconnected. They are about different couples, but after you read the 4 books is when this book comes in, and this is When He Desires, so it's the first like spin-off book in that series. So again, definitely read all 4 and then start with When He Desires. Essentially though, When He Desires is Nero's book. Nero is one of the consigliere, I don't know how you say that word, consigliere, I think that's how you say it, I don't know, but he works for this Don and his mafia in New York. Very, very powerful. And there's an incident that happens where basically they say that Nero has died, but that is not true, and Nero goes into hiding, and he has to assume this new identity and go into the small town and keep his head down. He's trying to kind of now go from being this strong, powerful mafioso in New York to having to be this small town, keep his head down type of man, because that simply is not in his nature, and it's very, very hard for him to try to accustom himself to his new life. He does end up meeting this heroine who he becomes very, very attracted to, wants to be with, and he goes through great lengths to try to get her to date him by propositioning for them to fake date, because he is seeing that although at the beginning he was having a lot of fun with a lot of the women from the town, now a lot of people don't want to hire him because he doesn't have the best reputation, and he's trying to do this like independent contractor business. They don't want to hire him because of that, and he knows that he basically doesn't have a choice. And also it would be a win-win for him if he convinces her to fake date him. But of course, she has no idea about his past. She has no interest in dating a criminal because of the past that she comes from. And the story basically goes on from there. It is action-packed. It is so great. And then there is a second book that just released at the end of August. I've already read it. So good. So good. But start with those 4 books first and then go into When He Desires. The next book that I did read was Before Us by Jewel E. Ann. And this one, I have a full vlog talking about the book, so I don't want to go too much into detail, but it essentially has epilepsy representation as well as, you can say, cancer representation, because the book starts off by our heroine who has epilepsy being hired by this couple who essentially, the husband is very committed to his wife. She has terminal cancer. She is going to pass away. They both know this. It's just a matter of time. But she gets hired to come and clean the house, you know, every once in a while. Eventually the couple does find out that because she has epilepsy, because of her medical bills and, you know, just her medication and stuff like that, she has lost her home. She's living in her car, and they, you know, welcome her to move in. The wife of the hero becomes really great friends with her and ends up kind of encouraging her and, you know, her husband to maybe potentially become something more once she passes. And the book kind of goes on from there. Again, I talked about it a lot in that vlog. I have a dedicated vlog for the book. It was not my favorite in terms of the romance, because I don't think that these two should have been together. I really think that they maybe should have just gone their separate ways. And that was just my opinion. As far as the epilepsy rep goes though, as someone that has epilepsy, I feel like it was done very well. A lot of great and very true concerns were brought up in this book. Again, it was just the romance did not work for me. And then I read Cash by Jessica Peterson. This is her first small town romance book, and she did such a great job. And let me just tell you guys, there is no third act breakup in this book, which honestly was like the cherry on top. Because there was no like third act breakup, I did wonder like what's gonna happen. Is it gonna be anticlimactic? It was great. It was handled beautifully. I really enjoyed it. You essentially have this heroine who was not very close to her dad, but her dad has now passed, and she is back in the small town where her dad had his ranch, and she's there for the reading of the will. When she shows up, she finds out that she's not the only one that's there for the reading. There is also Cash, who is the foreman of her late father's ranch. And she doesn't know why he's there, but she's like, okay, cool, he's here. They do not like each other. He sees her as this like brat who did not have a relationship with her dad, and who could have, you know, reached out to him, because he obviously only knows, you know, his former boss's side of the story. And she sees him as, I don't know who this man is, I don't really care, I don't know why he's looking at me like I'm a horrible person, but whatever, I guess he has to be here. She obviously finds out that she did inherit everything. Her plan is to just sell the ranch. Like, she has no interest in it. She is actually a boot designer, and she is thinking of this money helping her and her best friend, who have this business that they're trying to grow, but they really need the finances to grow it. And he is immediately like, oh great, now she's gonna sell it, we're all gonna lose our money. And the ranch is something that is really near and dear to him and his family. She ends up finding out though that her dad put a stipulation in the will saying that she will only get full access to her money and the ranch if she lives there for a year. She is incredibly upset. She does not want to do it. She lives in the city in Texas, doesn't want to move to this small town. Her mom offers to help get lawyers on it. I don't think it's fair that she has to be forced to live somewhere. But in the meantime, she moves to this small town temporarily. And while she's there, she ends up learning a lot about the ranch. She ends up learning a lot about the people that work at the ranch. And she really starts to connect a lot with how her childhood was. She does remember that love for riding horses and being in this town, and she ends up really liking these people. Her and Cash do not like each other. They very strongly dislike one another, but the banter was chef's kiss. And she is a very strong heroine, and he is a very stubborn man. But it was just such a great time. I really liked it. I was over here listening to Neon Moon imagining myself in my cowboy boots. I told my boyfriend I want to go line dancing. It was a whole thing. It was a 5-star read for me, and I definitely recommend it. And lastly, I read one of my favorite books for August. And actually, I have it right here. Let me go ahead and grab it. Hold on. And that is Trick by Natalia Jaster. I absolutely loved this book. So I actually met Natalia Jaster at See Me Lit thanks to my friend who had ordered the special edition. She had not read anything by the author, but we did stop at her booth, and we knew we were going to see her at the end of August at a local Barnes & Noble for a book signing. And so I, in the meantime, read her book on Kindle Unlimited, and I absolutely loved it. The way that this book is written is some of the most unique writing that I have personally read. It's very poetic, very lyrical. And I am someone who really loves lyrics. I really like and admire the way that great writers can put just a few words together to really evoke some sort of emotion. But the way that the book is written is just absolutely beautiful and truly poetic, which is kind of ironic given the fact that the hero's name is Poet. So Poet is a jester at a court, at the Spring Court, and you have the Spring Court, who is this place where people are very open sexually. It's a very, I don't know, the whole vibe for the book was very like kind of like highly sexual, but it's a slow burn. So it was such an interesting mix. And you have Brer, who comes from the Autumn Court. Their court is not like that at all. They're actually a lot more reserved. They're not as like straightforward and outgoing as like the Spring Court is. And she is absolutely captivated by this court jester, but at the same time totally despises him. And he is very intrigued by her and really loves to get under her skin. And you kind of just embark on this adventure that I honestly don't really want to give too many details because I feel like you should go blind. Like, the court jester marks his targets with a ribbon. That's how I find out I'm next. Because she is a princess, obviously them two could not have any sort of relationship. It would be a scandal to have a relationship, and she has no intention because, again, she absolutely hates him, but she also absolutely wants him. So many people want him. I mean, honestly, as you read the book, you start to want him too. Like, he is just such a bad boy. And let me show you some of the prints that I was able to get. This is, you know, where she signed it, but she also gave me these prints, and let me show you. I mean, just look at this. Look at that. I mean, if this doesn't just give you, I don't know, all the vibes here. And then look at this one. I feel like I can show this one. So good. I'm absolutely gonna frame those, and they're gonna go on my bookshelves. But it also has really great representation for being bisexual and being very like sexually fluid and open. I don't know if that makes sense, but yes, absolutely loved it. 5-star read, a favorite for August and a favorite for the year. It is a 4-book series, and she did say there will be 6 books total. So the other 3 books are on Kindle Unlimited, so I will be reading those eventually, and then she'll have 2 more that go with this. But I absolutely loved it, and I can't wait to go through it and just annotate it. I just got this book on August, was it 31st or the 30th? I don't know, it was on Saturday. So I can't wait to like go through it and just annotate it and highlight it. And yeah, such a great book, and I definitely recommend it. So with that said, those were all the books that I read in August. Let me know what you read in August. Let me know if you want to be checking out any of these books. But as always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.